Hi everyone, welcome to the Intro to UI UX Design Making Shit Better workshop. I'm Sarah, I'm a designer at Creative Labs.
I'm Caitlin, I'm also a designer at Creative Labs.
So just to give a quick overview on what we will be covering today, first we'll start out with giving a brief introduction to UI UX design, as well as providing some context as to why we design in the first place. Then we'll be going over some common UI design mistakes and how to avoid them, and we'll conclude with providing some additional tips and resources for you guys.
So let's get started with what is UI UX. UI stands for user interface, and it's the graphical layout of a product. So it consists of all the buttons and text that you see, any notifications, forms, etc. And every single visual element, interaction, and animation is designed by a UI designer. So someone who's concerned with the UI of a product might ask, how can we design our text to be accessible to all populations? And then UX stands for user experience. So it's the overall feel and experience of using a product, and it consists of a user's interactions with the product. So UX is determined by how easy or difficult it is to interact with the UI elements. And someone who's concerned with the UX might ask, how can we organize our website so that users know where to find our projects? And then why do we design? Simply put, we designed to make shit better than it was before. So on the right, you can see a bunch of parking signs in LA, and then a redesigned parking schedule that's much easier to understand. And so you won't get any parking tickets. I know my apartment has gotten 4 parking tickets in the last 2 weeks. So next slide. There are 4 steps to design thinking. The first is to identify something that's not working. The second is to research to understand the problem. And then the third is to explore potential solutions to fix it. And the fourth is to decide which solution best fits the goals of the project. So I'm going to walk through the parking sign redesign using these 4 steps to design thinking. So first, identify something that's not working. The designer who redesigned the parking signs realized that parking signs are really difficult to read and understand, and that drivers are often left with a nagging feeling that they read them wrong and then could get stuck with a $75 parking ticket. And the second is to research to understand the problem. So through her research and also through her own experience as a driver, she came up with 2 questions that drivers have. And it's just, can I park here and for how long? They don't need all of the other information that's on the parking signs. So then she explored potential solutions to fix it. On the left is her very first idea of what a redesigned parking schedule could look like. But then she realized that to people who are colorblind, it might be difficult to tell the difference between red and green. So then she added a symbol and then added patterns and then added the symbol back and then toned it down so that it was a little easier to see the red and the green. And then at the end, she decided that the solution that best fit her goals was the last one. And then that was the parking schedule that got redesigned.
So now we're going to be going over common UI design mistakes and how to avoid them. So the first 3 that I have listed out may seem intuitive, but you'd be surprised how often it occurs. So the first one is unnecessary inconsistency in UI elements. The second one is a lack of text hierarchy. And lastly, the third one is confusing iconography. So the first one is unnecessary inconsistency in UI elements. And on the image on the right, you can see that this is not a very aesthetically pleasing looking screen. So how do we fix it? First, we recommend that you decide on a color palette and maintain consistency across all elements on the screen. So buttons, text, links, headers, footer, etc. And then you also want to apply the same font styles for titles, paragraphs, any other text that you have on your screen, and lastly, incorporate consistent shapes. So if you're deciding on a button to use, make sure that you stick with either a rounded or squared button. And I just want to point out that it's completely okay for an element to deviate from the others, but this has to serve a purpose. So you see on the image on the right that this just looks much better than the one that was previously shown. And so why is this important? Consistency is crucial for building effective products. So a coherent design allows users to learn how to navigate their way around your product much faster. And in doing so, you're able to establish trust with the user and create a more streamlined and enjoyable experience for them. So the second problem is a lack of text hierarchy. How do we fix it? Well, we use site, weight, and color to distinguish headers from subheaders, and etc. And we also utilize space to visually separate different blocks of information. Why is this important? Well, text serves as the main unit of informational content, so it's important to organize it in a way that is digestible for the user. Properly formatted text affects how users perceive information displayed on a screen. So if you want to guide them to a certain part of your screen, you can utilize text. And lastly, we have confusing iconography. So how do we fix this? We have to make sure that icons are understandable. So we recommend using SVGs to retain high resolution across all devices, as well as maintaining a style consistency. So for example, all selected icons should be either filled or outlined. And this is important because icons are a fundamental part of digital interfaces. So it's important to choose symbols that are clear and intuitive.
And then we also have some more tips for you when you're designing. The first is to design using a grid. So if you look up layout grids, you should see a bunch of different resources, and I've also linked a couple on the bottom of the slide for you. So layout grids help designers constrain the structure of a design and achieve consistency and organization. And so applying a layout grid, as you can see on the right, on our Creative Labs website, it'll help you organize your designs, design more efficiently, and also translate your designs to a variety of screen sizes because you have everything in like specific number of columns. And then that will just resize as you resize your viewport. The next is to create a design system. So design systems include textiles, colors, and components that are standardized across your designs. On the right, I have Kava's design system. And so applying a design system to your design will help you create visual consistency, like Sarah was talking about before. It'll also help you design more efficiently and collaborate with other designers because you have standardized styles. And then the third is just to keep accessibility in mind. Designers need to design for all populations, including people who are colorblind, vision impaired, motor impaired, etc. And so some tips to keep in mind are to use meaningful hyperlink text. So not just like click here, but actually tell your users where the hyperlink is going to go. Don't specify important information using color alone. Maybe you can add patterns like on the right. Use body text that is easy to read. So use a font that, like for example, like one lowercase L, capital I sometimes look the same for some fonts. So I would try to avoid that. And then also avoid jargon or technical terms so that your text is really easy to read and accessible.
Yeah, so that pretty much concludes our workshop. We just wanted to provide you guys with additional resources to use as you're building your product. So yeah, feel free to use any of these resources listed here, and good luck with your project. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Okay.